This crash killed many people, and it became to be known as the Camp Hill disaster. An excursion train operated by the North Pennsylvania Railroad, known as the Picnic Special, they are being constructed by St. Michael's Roman Churches in Pennsylvania, Kingston. Selection of their Sunday school children on a picnic in Stuyvesant Woods, a Spring Grove near the railroad. Struck in present-day Amber Station on July 17th was one of the hottest days of the year, and children looked forward to a full day at the park. Train reported carrying 100 million people by the New York Times. Although there were any, although although there may although there may have been as 1,500, they were due to arrive in Washington at 6 a.m. It left Council and deported at Natchez Street in Germantown Avenue at 5:10 a.m. 23 minutes late, partly due to the large number of passengers on board. The train's locomotive was called the Shack in Action in honor of Kingston, the first American name, and it was operated by engineer Henry Harris under conductor Edward F. Hopper. The engine was having low steam pressure and having a sizable state as it pulled between 10 and 12 cars overload. With passenger Daniel Sharon was the lead car, with the older children, the rear car carrying women and the young children. The train had to make pressure stops to bring enough pressure to continue. As written in the present day, as the Wigginton station, another train, the Argamino, with conductor William Brenner and engineer William Lee, waited for the excursion to pass on a single track line that opened 1 year and 15 days earlier. The second action was late, but the conductor did not use any telegraph to communicate with the conquo and had no idea when the excursion had left. There would be customary 15-minute wait period for regular scheduled trains. But the Picnic Special excursion train, which confused matters at 6:15 a.m., the Argamino carrying 20 passengers from Europe pulled out of the station on what will be a deadly journey. The conductor of the Shack in Action was confident he could make up the time he had lost. He knew the Argamino was doing the opposite direction, the same as the track, but he estimated he could use the side of Edge Hill to save the passenger. As he neared a blind curve just past Camp Hill, the train traveling slightly downhill. Argamino was rounding the curve, and at the same time as Harris blew the whistle almost continuously, but his appearance to keep him from hearing the other train. Neither engineers knew exactly where the others. The two trains rounded the curve. The engineer finally called the side of the engine before it happened. The trains collided head-on at 6:08 a.m. between the Campbell Station and present-day crossing of the Pennsylvania Railroad, turning and cut off over the Bethlehem branch of the Grading Railroad. The boilers made correct contact, causing an explosion about 5 miles away. The three forward cars of the picnic train were obliterated and subsequently derailed, causing a fire to spread among the wooden cars. The initial impact did not kill most of the victims. They were caught in the burning derailed cars on the site. The women and the children who occupied the rear coaches were able to escape with serious injuries. A crowd gathered quickly from the neighboring town. The blaze could only be seen for several miles, and a man reported to go on horseback from the Montgomery countryside, while shooting the residents. Bring your cowboy bottles! Last time lit, there was a horrible accident. rescue was made an exact difficulty to handle the heat from burning wreckage. Sandy Run, a small creek that ran about 25 meters below the level of the tracks, running along the left of the train. A buckethead was formed down the edge of the stream by the onlookers to little avail. The Congas engines and horse company of Silent Hill, Crescent Hill, finally reached the scene and in fairly rapid order, scheduled the flames began to extinguish the victims. John Spencer of Campbell was an eyewitness who lived within the site of the collision. He gave following accounts of coroner investigation. I was looking out of my shop window and I saw the trains approaching. I saw the down train first, just coming through the cut above Camp Hill station. It was snacking off as it could just saying coming through there. I was just in time enough to turn around and saw the trains coming up the bridge at Camp Hill station. It was pretty smart. The trains were running about a cleverly could. I heard a whistle of the train coming before it reached the bridge. I could not see the speed of the trains diminish between the time. I saw the time of the collision. 11 of the bodies were 11 bodies of the dead were carried my 11 of the dead were carried to my shop. Mayor Amber, a middle-aged Quaker woman who resided here at the Quexon station, quickly gathered first aid materials and covered 2-mile distance between their homes of the disaster site on foot. The servicewoman and there was an carrying of the injuries, so it was no suspicion that her death was in 1868. The North Pennsylvania Railroad changed the name of the station to Wixon to Amber. Eventually, the town itself was named was named for Mr. Amber. As news of the accident reached the city and spread through the parish, people began to Grapevine, and many rushed to the scene of the crash at the Clockwick station. They were resonated by police. They attempted to use the hand-car coaches to attach the idle locomotives to the station, but they internally took the Sisters of Charity. The Daily Evening Bulletin reported the most horrible sight of the burning cars in a few minutes after the collision. The fire spread rapidly through the broken remains, and burning rose to death many men, women, and children. The groans and shout of wounded those held by the rescuers of the character to appeal the highest hearts. Henry Harrison, the engine specialist, died in the accident, as his wife was sharing the devastation was so extreme that many bodies were never found, and those were so badly burned they couldn't be identified. The conductor of the Archimego, Wayne Jones, who escaped uninjured, apparently felt he was to blame for the accident. He returned to Philadelphia, officially reported the accident, and went to his residence at 169 Buttonwood Saint, near 10th Saint, and committed suicide by hysterics. However, he was later observed by any band of the conductor injury. Based on the blame of the accident, he acted on gross carelessness. Alfred Hoppy, the conductor of the Sacramento Panic Special, Hopper then tried for manslaughter, but he incorrectly backed in suicide with city's evidence. 2 days after the accident, the Pennsylvania Inquirer said the most eager into the still show to all relate the awful tragedy on Thursday. The story of the accident was told across the world. Sometimes in Accident, for example, a news ball sold Norway tells the bad song of the terrible accident. On the railway in North America on the 17th of July 1856, where 200 children tragically died. The North Pennsylvania Railroad took steps for the accident to improve Rachel Bennett for the injuries and survivors of the victims. They were sure to shock those who accepted and gave money to those who do not, who would not. As it turns out, the sheriff's anything had worth is the bad. The railroad closed operation on the following Sunday of honor of the victims. 2 days after the Great Wreck, the New York Times published a scandal editor excursion railroad to ensure greater safety. Any train traveling on 2 directions should never share the same track. The site is now double track from Wade Junction to Lancaster Station. And the electric ride was 70 miles per hour, 110 miles per hour track speed. More broadly, there were several other changes promised, such as the use of the telegraph to notify stations of late trains, communicate other information. The numbers of passengers on the trains become a major concern, especially applied to the children. It has been 169 years since the accident, but the Campbell disaster remains one of the worst railroad disasters in history.